Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of the Barefoot Genealogist. Here in the United States, October is officially National Family History Month. And so I've been talking to some of my colleagues and friends around the office and asking their opinion about what some of the things are that we can do to celebrate or commemorate Family History Month. And I've put together a list of the top 10 things that they've recommended, and I've thrown in one or two of my own. And the idea is not that you have to do all of these things, obviously. The idea is just to kind of start to spark your imagination about the things that are possible. And hopefully you'll pick one or two of these things to do this month for National Family History Month. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's just start here at the top of the list with talk to living family members. One of the things we've discovered is we spend so much time with our dead relatives when we get into this hobby that we sometimes forget that there are still living family members who are treasure troves of information. And there's also living family members who we just need to be creating family history with. So I would strongly encourage you to talk to living family members. Now, of course, the rule of thumb that we always use is talk to the oldest living family members first. And when I say that, some of you automatically think to yourselves, well, what if I'm the oldest living family member? And that's fine. Who else in your family is also in your same generation? So just because your grandparents or parents may have passed doesn't mean you're the only one necessarily in your generation. Do you have siblings? Do you have first cousins? Start to think about who some of those other people are that you could contact. They very likely have different memories than you do of your parents and grandparents, and it might be kind of neat to get their perspective. It's also likely that they have photographs or family artifacts that were passed down to them through other channels than what you may have received. So reach out to those living family members, share with them some of the things that you've been doing as you've been digging into your family history, and see if they're willing to share information from their side. Of course, also talk to those younger family members. And we'll talk in just a minute a little bit more about that, but be sure to share the things that you're finding with your children and grandchildren. They may roll their eyes, but secretly, most of them kind of like it, whether they'll admit it or not. Which brings me to my next point. This came from several of my colleagues. They said, don't forget to write down your own family history. Now, this doesn't have to be overwhelming. We're not asking you to write an autobiography. There are some very simple things that you can do. For example, in my notes in Family Tree Maker, I just went through and made a timeline in my own profile of all of the different places where I have lived. So I just put the year and where I lived. Made a quick timeliner list, and now that information is recorded for future generations. Think about the kinds of things that you wish you knew about your ancestors, and maybe record some of those things. Information like what are your favorite hobbies, or what religion do you practice, or that kind of information that you might have really liked to have known about your great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents. Also, when I say write down your own family history, that doesn't just mean about you. Make sure you capture the things that you remember about your parents and your grandparents. My great-grandfather had a nickname for all of his children and grandchildren. He never called any of them by their given name. He always called them by a nickname. And so I've gone around and I've collected from all of my mom and all of her first cousins and all of their aunts and uncles, all of the nicknames that he called them, and I've recorded those. I just use the notes feature in Family Tree Maker to capture all of that. If you want to write a blog, or if you want to scrapbook it, or however you want to record that information is up to you. But get it recorded so that it's not lost. Again, my mantra for this step is, what do you wish you knew about your ancestors? Make sure you record that same kind of information for your posterity. Number 3. This came from several of the genealogists here on staff at Ancestry. order a new genealogy book and read it. Lots of different really great genealogy books, and we started comparing bookshelves and seeing what's what. And so I've created a board on the Ancestry Pinterest account where you can actually go and see what we have deemed as the must-have books on your bookshelf. And I'll be adding to this over time, but if you just go to Pinterest and search for Ancestry, you'll find our Pinterest account, and here's our boards. And there's lots of really great things here to explore, but there is a particular board here called Genealogy Books, and here you will see some of the books that all of us have in common on our bookshelf as we started comparing. And like I said, I'll add to this over time, so you want to make sure that you follow this board if you are on Pinterest, but maybe take a look at some of these books. I don't know if you're not familiar with the way Pinterest works. You can click on any one of these pins, and it will take you directly to the website where you can order the book. But those are the books that most genealogists have and read. And some of these books, I know Genealogy Standards, my copy of that is getting a little dog-eared because I refer to it constantly. Evidence Explained, I refer to it constantly. And so they become reference books that don't just sit on a shelf or get read once, but are used over and over again to help me be a better genealogist, to help me overcome my brick walls, to help me know what to do next, to help me make sure I'm following some of the industry standards. Really, really great tools. So order a new genealogy book and then maybe spend some time with that book this month. Another thing you can do this month is you can join us on October 18th for Find a Grave Day. You can go to the Find a Grave Facebook page or to the Ancestry Facebook page, and there you will find information about our Find a Grave Day on Saturday, October 18th. Basically what we're doing is all over the world, we are having people do meetups where they go to a particular cemetery, meet up with other Ancestry.com members and subscribers, find-a-gravers, people in the genealogy community. This is our community day, our global meetup, and we're going to make sure that those cemeteries have been photographed and transcribed, and that those photos get uploaded to Find a Grave. Find a Grave, of course, passed the 100 million photos mark not too long ago, and yet there are still hundreds of thousands of photo requests outstanding. People who want photographs of the tombstones of their ancestors and do not live anywhere near that particular cemetery. And so we're inviting people to get out into their local communities and into their local cemeteries and help us photograph these cemeteries, and we'll do it all together on Saturday, October 18th. Another thing that you can do is scan and upload your old photos. I, for years, had boxes and boxes of old photos that I had inherited through various channels over the years. Some of them my grandmother had in her possession still, and yet I was going through them every time I was at her house. Some of them were old slides, and they were deteriorating quickly, and I needed to get them scanned. Some of them I actually inherited my great-grandmother's scrapbooks. She was big into photography and travel even in the early 1900s. She took so many pictures, and she had these 3 giant scrapbooks that covered her life from about 1902 or 1903 all the way through the mid to late 1920s. And I had inherited these, and they were sitting on a shelf in my home. So lots of, as well as just the photographs of me and my family growing up, lots and lots and lots of photos. You know, we live in such a digital photo world now. The challenge is actually printing anything. But some of these old photos have never been digitized or scanned. And it just takes one natural disaster and they're gone forever. Or it just takes a little bit of the wrong conditions, the wrong light, the wrong temperature, the wrong whatever, and these photographs deteriorate to the point that we can't, that they're not usable anymore. So with that, I hate to sound all doom and gloom, but the idea is get those photos scanned as quickly as possible. If they can't be sent away, there's lots of companies that scan photos. I know with our slides, for example, we just sent them away through a service and had them returned to us then with DVDs of them. But if you aren't comfortable sending them away, there are a lot of fairly inexpensive scanners on the market. You can even now use your phone or tablet, your smartphone or tablet, as a scanner. Ancestry.com has a free app where you can download the free photo app, and it's called Shoebox by Ancestry. Take the photo, and then it will upload it even directly to your tree. Because it's great if you scan your photos, but if then you don't share those photos, again, you're running that same risk of you only have this one copy, this one digital copy. The idea is get those photos into as many hands as possible, and also just to share them. My great-grandmother's photos, I have them in my possession. Once I digitized them, I realized several of her aunts and uncles and her parents and her cousins were in all of these photographs. As I started sharing those with the family, there were photos there that some of them had never seen. And not just photos that some of them had never seen, but there were images of people that they had never, they had never seen an image of some of these people, their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. So share. Scan and upload those photos to your public trees. Here's a big one for Family History Month, and that is re-examine that brick wall of yours. A lot of times in genealogy, we have these brick walls, and it's always amusing to me when people come to me and they say, I've been working on this brick wall for 20 years, and usually what that means is that they pull it out every 6 or 8 months and look at it for 10 minutes and don't know what to do next. And so maybe take out that brick wall and re-examine it in some different ways. The questions I always encourage people to ask are, what do you know? And how do you know it? And what specifically would you like to learn? Because sometimes that brick wall is created just by the fact that we think we know something, but we have no proof for it. And so we've gotten ahead of ourselves. We're trying to find the parents of George Williams when we haven't even proved that George Williams is the father of our Thomas, or when we haven't even figured out when George Williams lived or where. So re-examine that brick wall. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is find someone to share it with. When we have to explain our brick wall, either in writing or out loud to someone else, very often we will see things we didn't see before in that explanation process. So maybe write out your brick wall. Here's what I know. Here's how I know it. Here's what I'd like to know about this person or this couple or this family. And in the process of writing that out, you're looking at it in a different way, and you might discover the solution, or at least have an idea or a research plan start to formulate in your mind. Same thing with explaining it to someone else. Now, I encourage you to share it with someone else, not just for that process of getting it out there, but also because very often other people can see things we can't see. Sometimes because we're too close to the problem, sometimes just because they have different skills or expertise or knowledge or information than we do. There are Facebook groups springing up, new ones every day. So if your brick wall is specific to your ancestors that lived in Germany, or your, Kansas, Dust Bowl family, or whatever, there's probably going to be a Facebook group that has something to do with genealogy or family history for that location. And you might want to check that out and maybe post your brick wall there, because those communities of people are very often willing to help you formulate a research plan to bust right through that brick wall. And so maybe now, this Family History Month is the time to do that. Okay, this one came up from several people here in our office. which is to explore ways to get your kids involved. And those kids could be your children or your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews, but there are so many ways to get kids involved in family history. And I mentioned earlier, some of them may roll their eyes, but what I've learned is that if I just share a little bit at a time, very often then when they want information, they will come to me because they know I'm the go-to person for family history in the family. And they learn that by hearing from you. They also internalize this information way more than you might think they do. I have 6 nephews and 1 niece, and I share family history stories with them as often as possible. I try to keep it in the realm of story because they're all still pretty young. The oldest is 10. The oldest of the 7 of them is 10. And so I just tell them stories, things I've uncovered, or I weave a story about the family history, rather than saying, oh, did you know that your great-grandfather was born? And, they don't care about the names and the dates and the places. Although the 10-year-old is starting to get interested because he's in 5th grade and he's studying U.S. states and their capitals right now. And so as I was quizzing him on U.S. states and their capitals the other day in preparation for his test this week, we got to talking about all the states where our family members have either lived or were born. And that was kind of fun for him. So there's lots of different age-appropriate things you can do with children. Maybe take your younger, and by younger, I mean maybe 6, 7, 8-year-old children or grandchildren to the Community Find a Grave Day on October 18th. Let them participate in that. Maybe have them hold the little reflector shield as you take your pictures, or maybe have them carry the iPad that has the photo requests on it while you carry the camera. Lots of different ways that you can involve them, and just a little bit at a time, just so that it whets their appetite, so that you can start to see who the rising generation of family historians are going to be in your family. Again, on Pinterest, we have got a board that is just about involving kids in family history. If you just scroll down here a little bit, I think it might be towards the bottom here, we have a couple of really great ideas for genealogy activities for kids, and lots of different ideas there. We've also got some ideas that we're going to be sharing on Facebook and on the blog throughout the week. So be sure to check those out and look for just some small different ways that you can get the children in your life involved in family history. Okay, last couple of items here. This one is run a data error report in Family Tree Maker. Now this seems a little, maybe a little bit boring, but one of the things that I have discovered is that sometimes I make mistakes in my research. And sometimes they're mistakes that I make because I did something wrong, and sometimes they're just like a slip of the finger. I transposed a number, and somebody that should have been born in 1856 is all of a sudden born in 1658. Whatever the case may be, there is a report that you can run in Family Tree Maker that will actually go through your entire tree and search for what we call systematic errors or common errors. Things like, was this child born after the mother died? Was this child born before the mother was born? Actually, you could even set it to say, was this child born before the mother was 13 years old? Same thing with the father, relationship between father and children. Lots of different kinds of systematic errors like this. Does this couple have the same last name? Now, sometimes that happens, but sometimes it's because we've not put her maiden name in, we've put in her married name. So there are several different data errors that it checks for. You're going to find that in Family Tree Maker under the Publish tab, and then under the Person Reports, you're going to see the data error report. If you want a more detailed view about how to run that report and what all of the specific errors are that it'll check for, you can find a video in our Family Tree Maker playlist on YouTube. I actually walk you step by step through how to run that report and what all of the errors are that it checks for. But it's just a good thing. You run the report, you print it out, you set it down next to your computer, and then as you have a few minutes every day to work on your family history, you can just go in and clean those errors up one at a time. Okay, another suggestion that came from some of my colleagues is to start reading some of the genealogy blogs. Some of the best and brightest minds in family history are writing blogs, and you need to find the voices that speak to you. But a few suggestions that I might give, Judy Russell does The Legal Genealogist. That's her blog where she shares not just family history, but family history specifically as it pertains to the law, how laws of the past affected our ancestors and the records that were left behind. Also, how laws of today affect how we do our family history. She's excellent writer, excellent speaker, above all, just a brilliant teacher. Elizabeth Shown Mills has her Evidence Explained website. It's not necessarily a traditional blog, but she does she does write posts and update new pages, and it's just packed full of information about how to use the steps of the genealogical proof standard and present evidence in your family history. Evidence Explained by Elizabeth Shown Mills. Lots of other blogs. Again, on the Ancestry.com Pinterest page, you're going to find a board called Genealogy Blogs. These are going to be about specific blog posts that we have found interesting, but those will take you to the blogs themselves, where you can start to become familiar with who some of the bloggers are in this space. Also, if you're not aware, Ancestry.com has a blog. I would highly encourage you to follow that. It's blogs, plural, blogs.ancestry.com. And you can, over here on the side, sign up for email notifications anytime we post anything new, or dump it into an RSS feed. Or you can just go through and read past blog posts. One of the posts that we do on a regular basis is every Friday, Amy does a post about the blogs that she's reading and that some of us have shared with each other throughout the week. And so you get a quick rundown or highlight of some of the top blog posts that have come out in the genealogy community during the previous week. So reading genealogy blogs is a really great way. And you don't want to get too overwhelmed, just pick a few maybe, but reading them is a great way to keep up with what's happening in genealogy. It's a great way to sharpen your skills. It's a great way to get new perspectives on information that might help you break through your particular brick wall. Okay, the last suggestion that we have from genealogists and staff here at Ancestry for celebrating Family History Month is to pick a 2015 genealogy conference to attend and start a savings fund for that. We would love to see you at one of our 2015 genealogy events. There are 5 major conferences here in the United States every year. 4 of those typically rotate cities every year. And then a couple of them are held in the same place every year. There's also smaller events. State genealogical societies hold conferences. Local genealogical societies have monthly meetings. Just Google genealogy conference or genealogy event, and you're going to find lists of them, again, on Ancestry's Pinterest board. We do have an entire board for genealogy events or conferences where you can go in and see where Ancestry is going to be. Some of the ones coming up soon, we have the genealogy event in New York City. That's coming up in just a week and a half on October 17th, 18th, and 19th. We also have an Ancestry Day with the Oklahoma Historical Society in Oklahoma City. That's going to be an amazing event. That's November 7th and 8th, I believe, in Oklahoma City. And those are the 2 remaining for this year. I'll have pins up for next year's conferences sometime in the next week or so. But the big one is the Federation of Genealogical Societies, who rotate their location every year. And Roots Tech, which is held in Salt Lake every winter, have combined their events this year for one massive family history event in February. And so if you, here in Salt Lake City, and so if you haven't picked one yet, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at that conference. It's going to be packed full of classes and exhibitors and opportunities for you to learn so much, and to network with other genealogists, to talk to other people who are as passionate about this as we are, and also to maybe find some cousins or some people who are researching in some of the same locations you are. So maybe get out your change jar, set that on your counter as your October Family History Month to-do, and start saving up as you select a conference so that you can join us at one of our events in 2015. No matter what you do for Family History Month, I hope that this has been inspiring to you to think of some things that you can do. I hope you'll join us for one or two of these items at the very least. Take a look at the Pinterest board. Maybe try something new that you haven't tried before in family history to commemorate this National Family History Month. That's all I have for you today. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.